Hello, hi. This week we are back with the R34, but do not expect any turbos, because this week we will take a look at the People's Skyline, the HR34. Good, so to start, just a short review. So the R34 Skyline came as 4 base models with a lot of different specifications between them. So at the top was naturally the GTR, the BNR34. It itself came in a lot of different specifications. So for example, there was the regular plain GTR. But then there was also the V-Spec, the V-Spec 2, the M-Spec, the M-Spec NER, and so on and so on. The next model would be the ER34. Its top spec was the 25 GTT, a car that you have seen a lot of in our videos. Now, the ER34 also was available with a naturally aspirated version of the RB25 engine. These were the 25 GT and GTV. Now, the next one would be the ENR34 or the 25 GT4. And you probably noticed the 4, which stands for, yes, 4-wheel drive. It came with 4-wheel drive and again the naturally aspirated RB25 engine. And then there was this little guy, the HR34, which honestly is the budget version of the R34 Skyline. And well, these were available both as a 4-door and a 2-door. You could have one with a manual transmission, or you can opt for an automatic one. But there was a big difference, and it's the engine. This car came with the RB20DE engine. Yeah, there's no T at the end, meaning it was not only the smallest RB used in an R34, it was also naturally aspirated. This made this car a lot cheaper than its siblings. And then of course you could have different options, but the base one came with steel wheels here. So you can see there's a steel wheel and a wheel cap. So no blingy aluminium rims here. But yeah, so the thing is, even though this car is the budget version, does it make it bad? Let's have a closer look. So I think you had an opportunity to look at it while I was walking around it and blabbing on. And yeah, so to start with its appearance, it's just gorgeous. I mean, this is an R34 Skyline. So yeah, there's nothing to hate here. It's just beautiful. And that's that. There's nothing I can add here. Of course, you might not like the steel wheels with the wheel caps, but honestly, first of all, I don't think they look that bad, and second of all, these are just wheels. You can change them. Yeah, so with that in mind, as long as the looks department goes, it's just gorgeous. Good, next let's have a look inside and be prepared for a surprise, because, well, it looks like a Skyline. Yeah, so inside it's just the same. Nice looking Skyline. So if we get in, I mean, sure, the trim is a bit different, but that's, you know, late 90s car for you. I mean, yeah, you can't hate it for it. It's just the way it is. And yeah, so basically it's not that different to the GTT, for example. And as you can see, this one is an automatic. And I know if you're a car enthusiast, you would probably want it with a manual transmission, and this comes from a guy who had some rather bad experience with automatic transmissions. It's not half bad. I mean, seriously, I did not expect this from a car this old. The transmission is just not that bad. It's pretty good, actually. So it's smooth, it just changes gears without any hiccups, and that's that. I mean, sure, it might not be as exciting as a manual, but all in all, it's just a perfectly fine automatic transmission. And then, as you can see here, you even have some options. So the basic one is just the AT, then you have a snow mode, but you have also power mode. Yeah, that's what you would expect from a Skyline, power. And speaking of power, the engine. So yeah, let's listen to what it sounds like. And as you can probably hear, it's not as loud as the 25, but it's still pretty smooth. And let's give it a couple of revs. I mean, sure, it's not the roar of the RB25 Turbo, but it doesn't really sound bad. I mean, yeah. It's still a pretty good sound. I mean, this, after all, is an RB engine, so I don't know. I mean, I like it. I don't think it's bad or anything. So yeah, that would be it. And maybe just let's have a quick peek under the bonnet. Okay. Yeah. Good, so give me just 1 second to open it. Here we are. This is the refurbished RB20D engine. And it has to be said, this engine paired with the 5-speed manual transmission is the most fuel efficient inline-6 engine put in a Skyline ever. So not just up until the R34, even including the new ones, this engine was the most economic option. So yeah, of course, right now, since it's all it's not all that efficient anymore, but still, I think this leads very nicely to the first point I wanted to make. So let's say you are a car enthusiast. Let's say you want a Skyline. But let's also say that you have a family, a partner, and they might not be all that enthusiastic about you spending your life savings on a gas-guzzling monster from the past. But now, if the car is a little bit old, sure, but it comes with a reasonable engine, it's a 4-door sedan, and even if it's a bit out of date, it still has all the basic comforts like air conditioning and so on. They might be just a little bit more understanding. They know you, they love you, they know you love old cars. So that's that. I think it's one of the ways to look at it. Now the second point would be that, as all of you know, the R34 Skylines are really expensive right now. And once they start to go to the US, it will just get worse. Now, if you want a GTR or even a GTT, but you don't have the money to buy a good one, you might opt to look for a cheaper alternative. So for example, you might want to look for a car that was in a crash or is generally in a worse shape. But the thing is, honestly, I do not believe there is such a thing like a cheap GTR or even GTT right now. If it's cheaper than others, it just means that there is something seriously wrong with it. And yet technically you could buy it as a project, you could fix it up, but there still is the risk of it being worse than looks. And then you might spend a ton of cash and a lot of time fixing it up, and it still will not meet your expectations. On the other hand, you can buy a car like this. Of course, the specs are nowhere near the GTR, but it's an R34 Skyline, and it's perfectly fine. I mean, for example, this specific car, it has a lot of scratches here and there, the paint is faded in places and so on, but then the chassis, the frame, the engine are just alright. There's nothing seriously wrong with it. Which means it would be just a great base, because you can do a transmission swap, an engine swap if you would want to, but the base would still be a totally fine car. So yeah, some food for thought. And to sum up, I think that's just it. The HR34 might not have the specs of the GTR, the GTT and so on, but because it's a cheaper alternative and you can find actual cheap examples that are in pretty good shape, I think that not only does it have its place in our JDM world, I think we really need it right now. And that's it. So thank you for watching and have a beautiful day, and I will see you again. Thanks. Goodbye.